Welcome to the Mystic Millionaire podcast, where wealth is energy, success is a mindset, and abundance is your birthright. I am Danielle Amos, your host and mentor, here to help you unlock prosperity, embody confidence, and manifest a life you love. Take a breath, align with your truth, and let's manifest millions. Welcome to the Mystic Millionaire podcast. This is Danielle Amos, and I am your host. Today, I have a special guest. Her name is Keri Ford. Before I read her bio and give you who she is, I want to tell you that this is one of those people, you know, when you just meet someone and you immediately click, like, you know, that your sisters, like, you get each other. Well, that was exactly how I felt when I met Keri. She's the real deal. And offline, we were speaking about how rare it is to find other people who are embodied in what they teach. Isn't that crazy? But Keri's the real deal. She shares vulnerably about her story. And if you are a subscriber, you're going to be pulled into her world as she shares when she just got kind of slapped in the face and woke up, and she resisted it. She didn't want to. That waking up led to her divorce, and now ultimately doing what she's doing. The conversation with Keri is raw. We talk about, I was picking her brain because she works with 7-figure earners and multiple 7-figure earners. And I wanted to understand, what are the processes, as we attract more success into our life, more money, more problems, more responsibility. And so I wanted to hear from her about what practices these high-level women have and how they regulate the nervous system, and any similarities that she saw with working with these women. So you're going to love this interview. Let me tell you more about Keri. Keri Ford, former creative director and ex-corporate leader, now serves as an award-winning advisor to the world's most influential women in business. As CEO and founder of Elevate with Keri, a global high-performance coaching company, she empowers female founders and executives to achieve new heights through her cutting-edge methodologies in nervous system regulation, peak neuroscience performance, and an embodied approach in leadership. Go find Keri, go send her a message on Instagram, and let her know what resonates in this interview. You're absolutely going to love it. Thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing this podcast. Thanks for being a subscriber. Without you, none of this matters. So I'm so grateful to all of our followers. This is Danielle. Enjoy the show. Keri, welcome officially to the Mystic Millionaire podcast. Thank you for being here today. And thank you so much for sharing authentically and vulnerably in the bonus episode for all of our subscribers. It was a really grounding conversation to hear where you've come from, and not that long ago, being forced, kicking and screaming to wake up and to be on the path that you are on today. So for our listeners, would you share who you are, what you do, and how you help?
Yeah, I'm a trauma-trained practitioner, and I work with women's nervous systems, but I apply it to leadership, business, friction points, growth, team organization, to help them, protect their profit, not necessarily maximize productivity because they already are productive, but maybe to metabolize and work through stress and support. These are women that hold everybody else, so they come to me when they're ready to be held.
I love that. I could so relate. When I was reading for your bio and prepping, I'm like, oh my goodness. I feel like you're the 8-figure, 9-figure super weapon, secret weapon behind the scenes, that you're right. As a multi-million-dollar entrepreneur myself, it's sometimes we feel like, holy, we're holding it all. And it's all on our shoulders. And I've said that before.
Well, and it is, though. That's also valid because it's true most of the time. People have retired their husbands. My clients have their husband on payroll. They are the breadwinner, but they're also the default parent. They have a portfolio of real estate. They have a team of people that just have their hand out. Not to say that they're not also autonomous and we work on that, but that's a lot of pressure and responsibility on an ongoing basis. And then not to mention their own personal development and self-care. So that is a lot. And when you're a visionary, it's sort of this like frustrating tension, if you will, because you're always creating this like more idyllic, better future for other people, for your mission and your vision. It's like the thing you can't not do. And yet it's a lot to hold as you do that and grow. So there's just different friction points. There's just different, places for growth at that level.
And I feel like until you've built a business, which many of us started as a solopreneur, a business of one, until you've built the structure within where it's like, if you don't show up, it is on your
Yeah.
shoulders, And
Right.
so I've definitely felt that. And that's been a huge part of the structure that we've been building behind the scenes in my company, because I realized that when my niece was killed in a car accident a few years ago, and I promoted my COO so that I could take time off, and the business was impacted. And then to focus, so I could focus on my family and then focus on my relationship. And now going through divorce, I realized I was wow, when I need time, it's really not possible at the way I'm currently running this business. And that's scary.
Mm-hmm. It is scary. Well, and especially if it influences revenue.
Oh, yeah.
And then everything else, it's like, who does it fall on to get the revenue, close the clients, keep the clients? Like, that's the whole thing. So if
Yeah.
you're a service provider, yeah.
Yeah. So I like love what you do. Thank you for being
Mhm.
who you are. So I'm interested to talk about the women that you serve and what they specifically are dealing with and how you help them with their nervous system. So I was thinking about my own journey and a lot of my colleagues. I was just at a mastermind as well with 10-figure earners and 9-figure
Yeah.
earners, and this idea of more money, more problems, like the rap song. And I kind of joked about it behind the scenes with you, but it's like so true. The more
Mhm.
responsibility we have, the more impact we have, and the more we've got to up level ourselves. So you share, without sharing details, some of the things that you've recognized, and maybe if there's some common traits with women at this level that you've really helped them with. If you can like bucket things, what would that look like?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with like one thing that they grapple with is, more. What does more mean? Why do I want more? Am I building just to build? Is that in my dharma, my essence? Is that what I'm really called to do? Or am I building from a wound? And really discernment is so powerful because maybe you don't want to scale. Maybe it's not working because you don't really want it. So if something's not working and I notice that they're hitting the same repeated wall or they're kind of not able to get past a certain level, maybe of income or growth in the team, I just have them ask, what part of me actually doesn't want this to work? And then it either will reveal a limiting belief, right? Or it will reveal an honest truth of, you know what, I actually don't want this big company. And I thought that this is what this next level looked like and what I should want. And because I'm surrounded by people at this 10-figure mark, that was my next step. But I actually realized I had it pretty good and I already have everything I've wanted to manifest. And maybe I just want to sustain that. So
Mhm.
sustainability is a huge concept and what enough means.
Yeah, what's interesting
Subjective.
when you say that, I think too, there's like, if we do desire the more, let's say, like more money, we assume that it has to be like a certain way, like a big team,
Mhm.
for example. I've I've actually let go a lot of my team because
Yeah.
I realized I didn't want that, and I felt like I bought into the belief or the programming that I had to have certain
Mhm.
positions, and it's like, well, according to who? I don't
Mhm.
have to have that business model just because other corporations have that business model. So that this idea that we can have it all if we really want it, but we get to decide what that looks like. And so I love the question of asking, like, where is that coming from? Where's that desire coming from? And is it something that's been programmed like I should want it?
Mhm.
And then what is that that if there's any limiting beliefs around there that are creating that ceiling?
Yeah, and there's a lot of change at certain levels, see it around 3 million, there's some change, 5 million, 10 million, and then beyond that, there's a lot of team restructuring that often happens or rearranging, reprioritization of, actually what we're focused on and here's what we want to do next. So at that level, you're really beyond borrowing the blueprint. It's about building a blueprint and getting clear on what that really honestly looks like.
Yeah,
We
and
can
when
replicate all day, but we can build a prison real fast around our purpose.
yeah, totally. Yeah, agreed with that. What we do a lot and the listeners here on the Mystic Millionaire podcast, they are really used to that internal world and us
Mhm.
talking about mindset and more beyond mindset. So you also speak about the nervous system regulation. So that for us, we address what it means to be a human being on all levels. So the
Mhm.
intellect, the emotional, the spiritual plane, as well as the physical plane. When you are noticing people move from, let's say, the 3 to 5 million to 10 million mark, what are you noticing? Have you noticed any that you can pinpoint, like mindset that upgrades or like thinking belief system upgrades?
Sometimes the identity work hasn't fully landed there, so they're
Yes.
still building like they did when they were scrappy builders.
But yeah,
And then there's this fear, it's like irrational. And they know it's irrational, and then that's why they end up working with me because they're like, "I have more money than I've ever had in my life, and I still feel like I don't have enough."
yeah.
And they're like, "It's not even rooted in reality," So there's this like fear, but a lot of it's based on where they came from. Like if they're a first time female entrepreneur millionaire, those three things, you're overcoming a lot of collective traumas, right? Females, being an entrepreneur, breaking out of the matrix of corporate, and a first time millionaire in your generational familial dynamic. So when you're breaking free of those molds and casts, there's identity work that has to happen in order to do two things: neutralize and normalize. So that you don't get to an upper limit or sabotage it. You don't want to sabotage it unconsciously, push away the very thing you actually do want and have. I see that a lot with like where they might unconsciously manifest continued chaos. So things finally sustain, things are finally working. And then it's like, I think I'm gonna build out another whatever. I think we're going to stop doing that. And I'm like, hold on. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying let's just wait a little longer. So we're installing a brake pad between idea and action because they're really fast implementers, which is such a gift. But sometimes it's so fast that we really need to take a little time to discern. So I see scarcity stuff show up still, depending on where they came from. It feels like not enough. Like if I take my foot off the gas pedal, because that's how I got here, it's all gonna go away. So there
And
might even be proof of that, where they went on a
oh, for
vacation and
sure.
their team fucked up. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure, because their beliefs, they always have to be right, right? So if they really believe that, that has to be their reality.
Mhm.
So interesting. We were also talking behind the scenes about how what I've noticed is that our it's really important to remind ourselves that our own medicine or our own systems are is so important for us. Like we have to be our best clients in our work. So whatever
Yeah.
we teach other women and coach them on, we've got to be taking that. And it came back such like for me personally, like a slap in the face, but because it was at a different level. And so it wasn't, I was like, because I do identity, that's self image, money. And it came back so strong at the beginning of 2025. I was like, oh my goodness, this is the same thing that I was doing 10 years ago, but at a completely different level. And I've got to
Yeah.
do it again for myself. And it's not like I haven't been doing identity work. It just like wasn't so, I don't know, felt like so dire, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
No?
Yeah, it
Like,
felt bigger than you're probably used to more little shifts, tiny pivots, refinement versus something that's way more guttural when you first start your healing journey, it's very guttural.
mm, yeah. And I wasn't expecting that. And life kind of forced it. I mean, divorce and creating a new identity and then finally claiming what was on the other side of that and for myself and my business and my purpose.
Mhm.
Yeah, interesting. I love how you help women identify the trauma, like where it could be ancestral. Can we talk a little bit about that and even some of the processes or some of the things that you actually do with people?
Yeah. And so one thing I'll say about collective trauma, let's say as women, right? As women, there's collective trauma. If we're in a specific race, there's other collective trauma. There's lots of kinds of different collective trauma. So we have to be mindful not to first bypass it and saying, oh, well, that's not mine. So I don't need to heal it. We can be with whatever is in that moment. And so when I work with nervous systems, we work at the level of sensation, which is most people have an awareness of the symptom. So it's like, I can't sleep at night. Okay, well, that's indicative of some chronic stress, which is indicative of sympathetic charge in the system most of the time, meaning the cycle of the activation is not fully coming down in nervous system. So then we get even clearer on, okay, what does that feel like as you think about that stress? My heart is beating really fast. Now we're talking the language of the body and the nervous system. So most people have an awareness of the symptoms. They might even be able to name a feeling. I feel sad. Cool. What does sad feel like inside? And where do you feel it? Now that's where we start. So if there's an access point for that nervous system for me to get in there to start tracking and rewiring, sometimes they don't have access to that, by the way. They're like, I just feel sad. I don't know what that feels like. Okay, great. Or they're like, am I your worst client ever? Am I doing this right? And I'm like, it's okay. Just stick with me. You're doing it right. You're perfect. So we're just speaking the language in the nervous system when we start speaking in terms of sensation. So hot, cold, prickly, sick to my stomach. I feel a tightness in my neck, a lump in my throat. Those are all somatic expressions, somatic sensations versus I'm angry. Great. How does anger feel? Oh, I feel hot. Okay. So that's where we start in all of our sessions. From there, what's really cool is I need zero context. It's like energy clearing work in a way. You don't need to know the story, the person, the place, if it's mine, if it's not mine. It's right now, something's alive because the nervous system's talking to us. So that's where we can start. So whether it's great grandmas, which it probably could be because that's how we have like 7 generations in our body, or it's because of how the eggs grow in uterus. Yeah, and are passed on.
I love that. I'm such like a science girl. So when you say that, I'm like, okay, what? Like that's really thing.
Yeah, I think if I'm quoting it right, it's up to 7 generations that live on because of the cells in the uterus that get passed on and connected through the lineage. Pretty cool.
Wow, that brings like a whole new framework and perception for me to think about lineage. And I mean, how many people even know 7 generations back? I mean, we can,
I had like sheep herders in my family and
yeah,
apparently there were entrepreneurs way in our past, but not in my immediate nuclear family. So it's interesting to notice like even patterns or natural ways of being, how it didn't land in my nuclear family entrepreneurship, but we have entrepreneurship in our lineage.
Interesting.
So I'm like, that's interesting. There's imprints, right? Everything's always being imprinted and the body remembers. So if it's being imprinted and it's being recorded, and don't forget too, when we have a child in utero, they're receiving the recording of 9 months of being connected to your voice, your linguistic prosody, your heart rate. So if the imprint is anxiety, when you're pregnant, your child could come out very anxious.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. I was very aware of that being pregnant.
I was not. I didn't have any of this work. So yeah. So I do have 2 children who have some anxiety, 1 who has a lot. And so I actually found my way to somatic work working with his nervous system. This morning we did a little somatic work. So he has sensory processing. I don't really believe in disorders, but it's sensory processing disorder on paper. What that technically means is it is on the autistic spectrum, but it's things are less overwhelming. It's more, everything's more muted. So it's not loud enough, fast enough. He seeks stimuli and sensory input, specifically proprioceptive, which is bringing weight into the body, like a tight hug, compression, containment, and vestibular input, which is like in motion. So his body will naturally go into trying to soothe through a lot of in motion type stuff, which is actually exacerbates some of the dysregulation. And then the hemispheres in the brain sometimes get they just miscommunicate, misfire. So the work that we do, like laid on the couch this morning, he goes, "Hey, want a cuddle?" And he'll be 12, which I'm like, "Yes, I do." Like, I will eat this up forever. And so we're laying on the couch and he's just moving his legs. So instead of letting that bother me and me saying, "Stop moving," because that's most parents, they feel the anxiety in the resonant field between the two nervous systems and they stop. I'm not going to shame him for it. I said, "Hey, I'm really curious. Do you have access in this moment to something inside your body that feels calm right now?" Why? Because the trauma vortex, what's happening is it's expressing this anxiety, but the counter vortex, if you think about it like a river current, has another side, and the other side is the opposite of that. So I wanted to instead direct his attention and awareness toward the opposite. So he said, "Yeah, my butt." Laying on the couch. I said, "Great, feel your butt, you know?" And he goes, and then all of a sudden his feet just stop. I didn't say stop moving your feet. I'm just tracking his nervous system. So he feels his butt, probably the support of the couch, if we're being honest. And he starts to calm down. I notice his heart rate and his breath slows. I notice him relax a little bit. He's less in a bracing position. And I said, "Do you notice if anything new or different happened?" He goes, "Yeah, I feel more calm." I said, "Ooh, notice that." So with somatic work, we're constantly bringing awareness and training into the other capacity. The brain is wired for negative bias. Look at how it's not working out, right? And I'm sure you see this manifestation. Look at all the ways it's not working yet. Look at that is just our self-protective responses coming online to protect us from hurt, pain, fear, perceived threat, though, right? When we're talking in the realm of growth and, law of attraction and manifestation, we're talking about perceived threats. Sometimes we're actually safe, but it feels dangerous to be more visible, let's say, or have more money. So we have to train the nervous system to have capacity to be with pleasant things too, because otherwise when we have the pleasant things arrive, we won't believe it.
Yeah.
And the disbelief creates disconnect.
Yeah, it's so good. You also said something that was really interesting before about it was about chaos. If we are
Mhm.
chaos, this is something I noticed for myself. One of the reasons why I separated from my divorce was reading Codependent No More, the book. It
Mm.
was like a slap in the face. I didn't realize that I was in that type of relationship. And when I got out, I actually noticed that I didn't feel safe without the chaos because
That's right.
I've been so used to it in my reality. And I noticed I was starting to create it in a relationship that was so calm and it felt like something was wrong. Yeah. And I had a friend say to me, like, "Danielle, that's actually healthy. The way he's kind to you and what he's speaking to you about, like you're creating a problem that's not actually there." And yeah.
Well, it's a way to test the safety unconsciously, right? To see if you're safe, but also the invitation there in terms of nervous system is to learn how to reorient internally first. So I see this a lot where, as women especially, we were taught to externally orient, meaning if you're taken care of and you're okay, then I can be happy and safe. But if that person and your anchor is constantly in chaos, your nervous system is like tracking with them. And that's what you orient to as a relationship or what love means or how love feels. So then there's a coupling in the nervous system. With love comes chaos. With love comes everything that feels outside of my body. With love comes losing myself to the we space instead of maintaining me space. So the invitation there is often to recognize the two nervous systems are separate and that there is a space between where there is resonant field and what's mine and what's yours so that I can come and go energetically in my bubble or the we space, but I don't need to leave myself or abandon myself, betray myself to join your nervous system completely. And then your nervous system starts to become somewhat allergic to the new anchoring and orientation because you recognize that those are actually red flags, right? Instead of, well, like this skepticism, like when a healthy relationship arrives, like, am I missing something? Like there's a skepticism because it's just, it's new. It's not familiar.
Yeah, I got that completely. Oh, interesting. Very good. I'm curious, like, how you got here, Keri, because it wasn't that long ago. You said 2019. You woke up, and here you are. Like, I'm just so fascinated by your knowledge and your wisdom. Oh, incredible. It was very safe to be around you as well. So thank
Oh,
you.
thanks. I
Yeah.
get that all the time. And I've worked hard on myself.
Yeah.
And, I always say, my goal is not necessarily to create safety, it's to create relative safety. Because my goal is to bring people to their edge potentially of cognitive dissonance enough that they can recognize that's a growth edge for them while also feeling safe enough to share within themselves. And I'm the empathetic witness to that. So thank you for that compliment. It's like the highest compliment I can ever receive.
You can
You know,
really
I
tell
think,
you're on purpose, by the way. And it's interesting as well. A few of the women that I was with, we were talking about this, like power recognizes power, equal power, but
Mm,
different. And I can feel that you're very embodied, that you are the real deal. So thank you for being that.
thank
In
you.
a field where that authenticity and that level of doing your own personal work and embodiment is, I think, unfortunately, somewhat rare out there,
Very
so
rare.
thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I really don't take that lightly because I think in a world and of information and with the addition of AI, everyone can know something with their fingertips. But is it the difference between information and embodied wisdom? And I think embodied wisdom requires some level of grief. It's a letting go process in order to remember who the fuck you are. And
Yeah.
that is not a gentle process. It's like birth. It's not an easy, painless thing. It is a coming into this world, messy and from the darkness into the light. And I think that healing is the same way. But when you have the courage to say yes over and over again, the gap between seeing your growth edge and being in it evaporates. You close time in that way.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, they can see it and they take a step in my experience, and it is too fucking hard. And so, like, easier to step back for a lot of people, especially if they don't have support. I think that's why support is so important so that they do know that this is the way. But I love what you said about forget, like the grief and letting
Mm.
go of who you were to remember who you really are is super important. For me, it felt like my whole world was flipped upside down when I got into this information the first time and then again. And then I went back to sleep for a while and was reintroduced about 10 years ago. And it wasn't as dark as what you went through, although I've had many of those since then. But for me, it felt like it was everything I thought was true was a complete lie. And so what did that mean about my relationships, who I was, everything? And I think the willingness to be able to let go takes great courage because it can often feel very alone. Like you said, you felt
Yeah.
like you were going crazy.
And growth can look really glamorous on the outside. You watch someone's ascension and you see all the things they're creating and manifesting in their life. But come
No idea.
yeah, deeply coupled with grief. But the more you can embrace that process, the
Mm.
faster that you actually move through because you accept it. There's just a radical acceptance for this being part of the journey. It doesn't mean it's easier. It just means you move through it faster because you're
Yeah.
looking at what's happening.
And I think like really leaning in because to your point, we're going through it. Like this is what's happening. And so the more we resist it, well, the resist persists, right? So it's going to take longer.
That's right.
So
It takes more
leaning in.
energy to resist it.
Yeah. And I feel like it's like giving it up and the surrender. And a lot of that has to do with faith in your belief in one's
Yeah.
belief, I think.
Well, and before I talked about trauma vortex and counter vortex, there
Mhm.
is the other side. So it's developing a language and becoming fluent in really good things too, especially if you come from a lot of historic trauma or you're in a season of really hard stuff. That can residually follow you around everywhere. And your past will absolutely dictate your future because you're unconsciously bringing it into your present moment and writing those pages. So it's important to clear all that,
Yeah.
right? So that you can free yourself and you don't have that residual effect. But, the opposite is also true. So we have to bring in fluency and joy and play and freedom and really amazing magical things. Otherwise, you won't have capacity to keep it or hold it. And it will be unknown and unfamiliar. And I talked about disbelief. But on the other side of that, what actually gets you through fear is the ability to feel fear. And so to know that you can build resilience And despite anything happening, that you'll be okay. It's really resilience building that we're doing with trauma healing work. And Dr. Peter Levine, who's like an OG in somatic work, says that. So it's not about necessarily talking about all your deepest, darkest wounds. It's about cultivating resilience when shit gets hard, because I'm going to tell you, it doesn't go away. You know this, multi 7, 8, 9 figures, everything just gets more complicated. You have more people, you have more overhead, you have more money, you have just more shit. Everything gets amplified. So resilience is a secret ingredient and weapon into your success journey, because you're like, you know what? At this point, nothing surprises me. You're going to sue me, my Airbnb burned down, whatever, like bring it on. So resilience is sort of like a huge part, not just risk tolerance, but the resilience piece, which is no matter what happens, I can handle it.
I love that. And I think there's such gold in what you just said about doing the work in real time as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like allowing yourself, this is something that I've been working on the last year, is noticing when it shows up in my body, leaning into it, and then actually getting myself to a point where I take responsibility for attracting this, but in such a good way. Like, it's like, this is my creation. I'm co-creating. I trust in all of it and I can handle it, lean in. And then it's like if I can sit with it, and it doesn't take that long, like I would say less than a song, to move the emotions through. And then it seems to dissipate, and then I can take my power from it back from it. Like it actually has felt like the power returns from me to me, sorry, if I can sit in it. Does that resonate? Like,
yeah. And did the power ever really leave to be returned, right?
Yeah,
Has it always been there, just beneath the mental noise and the illusion of separation of self? So, is it already there? Might be the invitation. But, for anybody listening that's like, well, whenever I go to think about the fear, or I even try to explore it, I just feel paralyzed. It feels like sheer terror and panic. I want to encourage that person just to feel a pinkyful of the fear, or 1% or less. That's okay. And that's called titration in somatic work. So it's just stretching the balloon a little bit, stretching capacity to be with a little bit. And if you're with a little bit over a longer period of time, eventually you kind of nail down the whole staircase. And it doesn't have to be some cathartic, crazy rage release thing. Those do have a purpose, but only if there's a baseline of personal development and capacity.
That's huge. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Amazing, Keri. This has been an incredible conversation. I'm like, you're my person. And we said this, we could talk for hours. Yeah. I'm grateful for our connection. I love how women find each other at the right time. So thank you.
I know. And twice in 1 week. Remember that we got introduced through a mutual connection, but it ended up being 2 mutual connections in the same week. And you were like, this is wild. Like 2 times in a week, your name's being dropped. I didn't even know who you were before.
Yeah. And here we are. And I look forward to seeing you in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us on the Mystic Millionaire podcast. I end every show with 3 questions. They're rapid fire. Are you ready for those?
I'm ready. I'm resilient and I can handle anything.
Amazing. Love it. And for all of our listeners, check out the show notes, because we have all of Keri's info there. Go find her. I love hearing from you what resonated in this conversation. Keri and I were just talking as if we would be talking in my living room. So if this was for you, that's why you were here. So let us know what resonated. Reach out to both of us on Instagram, and please share this podcast. And of course, give us the thumbs up and share it with others that definitely will benefit from this conversation. So thank you, Keri. And here are 3 questions. The first is abundance in 1 word. Go.
Oh, geez. Time.
Ooh, love. Yeah, great one. The second is, you're on the Mystic Millionaire podcast. So what is 1 guilt-free indulgence that you allow yourself to keep you in the millionaire frequency?
Doing not personal development, because I have a tendency to take everything seriously. So we binge watch old shows like Lost. We're currently locked in. And I'm like, this island is crazy.
Okay, so an episode of Lost.
Mm-hmm.
Our last question you only have one book to read for the rest of your life, what book would that be?
Draw the Circle.
As if you're on Lost.
Draw the Circle by Mark Batterson.
Okay.
It's a book that's a daily prayer practice, but what I love is it's an invitation into a fluent conversation with God. And I don't believe we're separate from God. I very much subscribe to the A Course in Miracles, Neville Goddard mind. So I love the constant recalibration and grounding. They're like micro chapters. It's just a beautiful refinement daily.
And what is the title?
Draw the Circle.
Draw the Circle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So surrounding things in prayer and circle.
Love. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go and order it right away.
Yeah, so good.
And I didn't realize you were a Neville fan.
Oh, yeah.
I have
almost daily listening.
Okay. Same.
Yeah.
I've got.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm right in there. The power of awareness for me is key. And I was actually just showing my clients Out of This World. So they're like, how do you read? And I'm like, well, let me show you these notes. It's like, yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Keri. There's so much I feel resonance with you. And I'm not at all surprised why we attracted each other into our world. So I'm blessed to know you. And it's a blessing to have you here and to introduce you to the community. And I know they're absolutely going to love this conversation. So thank you and expect abundance. Enjoy your day.